Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Friday Clinical team organizing this academic workshop, very unique workshop in our institution today, I welcome you all to this auditorium and especially happy to invite the distinguished faculty who have graciously taken out their time to share with us about this unique workshop. Very happy to see a mixture of gathering here with students, faculty, and other researchers in their different stages of their career. Welcome you all, and I would request Father Charles to kindly come on the stage and deliver the welcome address for this workshop.
Very good afternoon to each one of you. Reverend Father Chesnas Rajamanikam, our Director of St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences, Dean Dr. George, Dr. Tony, Dean of Research Institute, our esteemed guest speakers, everyone present here. Germany's President Steinmeier instantly invites Hungarians to a reception next week on 28th June. And this annual meeting of Hungarians will be opened at the Stadio in Berlin on 27th June. The keynote address of this year is very interesting. What is a physicist doing in biology and medicine? When St. John's meets great people from the Indian Institute of Astrophysics and Indian Institute of Science, there can be new designs for building bridges and moving ideas. St. John's stands tall in providing quality healthcare education, research, and service to our underprivileged brothers and sisters. Similarly, Indian Institute of Science and Indian Institute of Astrophysics contribute enormously to the education, research, and service of humanity. Opening dialogues, creating opportunities are key for new ways of innovation and application. Institutional efforts in conducting workshops for research opportunities help young generations find novel ways to reach greater heights. We are happy that St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences is organizing today the workshop on funding opportunities for research in Germany. I'm extremely grateful to Dr. Ryan and Mr. Nishant for helping us organizing this event and the entire team who have worked behind. We are honored to have our director, Father Chesnas Rajamanikam, and our deans, Dr. George D'Souza and Dr. Tony Raj, to inaugurate this workshop. They have been great support in organizing this workshop. May I welcome them to the stage, please. We are honored to have great scholars and past Humboldt fellows to speak to us and interact with us in the next 2 hours. May I invite one by one and request Father Chesnas to felicitate them by presenting the shawl of St. John's as a sign of welcome. Professor Dr. Siraj Hassan, a renowned professor of astrophysics and former director of Indian Institute of Astrophysics. Welcome, sir. Professor Dr. Manju Bansal, an outstanding scientist from Indian Institute of Science. Welcome, ma'am. Professor Dr. Shashik Kumar Ganesan, an outstanding professor of computational and data science from the Indian Institute of Science. Welcome, sir. Professor Dr. Shiv Kumar, a distinguished aerospace engineer from Indian Institute of Science. Welcome, sir. Once again, I heartily welcome you, esteemed Hungarians, to St. John's, and we are eager to listen to you. Your life journey is a great inspiration to us. I also welcome all the executives, faculty, and scholars, delegates, PhD and postgraduate students, and everyone present here. I wish the participants to actively involve in the workshop for greater opportunities. Welcome. May I request the director, Reverend Father Yesudas, to inaugurate the session by speaking a few words.
Dear members of St. John's family, and our honorable and invited guest, Professor Siraj Hassan, Professor Manju Basal, and Professor Sasikumar, and Dr. Sivakumar. And it is honor to welcome you all to this workshop. And we are so glad to have you amidst us today to listen to your experiences, to get motivated. At St. John's, we stand firmly by our core values, which guide us in our mission to serve the underserved in the healthcare sector. From our inception, our goal has been clear: to train medical professionals who are dedicated to working in underserved areas across India. Today, as we gather for this important fellowship promoting workshop, we are presented with unique opportunities. This event not only emphasizes the importance of research, but also highlights the potential for joint venture between St. John's and other esteemed universities. It is through such collaborations that we can expand our horizons and push the boundaries of what we can achieve in healthcare and medical research. I encourage our esteemed faculty and the enthusiastic young researchers present here to take this chance to explore the numerous possibilities that lie before us. This workshop is a gateway to innovation, discovery, and excellence. Your participation in this workshop signifies a commitment to excellence and desire to make a difference. I urge you to be inspired, to think creatively, and to pursue your research endeavors with passion and determinations. Together, we can transform lives, improve healthcare delivery, and set new benchmark in medical research. Let us use this platform to build lasting partnership, to learn from each other, and to contribute meaningfully to the field of healthcare. Remember, every step we take towards advancing our knowledge and skills is a step forward and towards a healthier, more equitable future for all. Thank you for your time and thank you for your presence. We will honor and we will honor your presence forever. Thank you and welcome and welcome. God bless.
Thank you, Reverend Father Yosibas. Now I request Dr. George D'Souza, the Dean of the Medical College, to say a few words.
Father Jesudas Rajamanikam, our Director, Father Charles Davis, our Associate Director, Dr. Tony Raj, Dean of the Research Institute, distinguished guests, faculty, and dear students. Good afternoon, and welcome to all of you to St. John's Medical College. It is indeed our pleasure to host this meeting of Humboldt Fellows at St. John's. And I thank Father Charles Davis, our own Humboldt Fellow, for having facilitated this. I must admit, I never heard of the Humboldt Fellowship till Father Charles joined St. John's. St. John's Medical College was started in 1963 and has always fostered research and has as one of its core objectives research which helps improve the health of the community. It is with this in mind that this research institute was started, the first of its kind on a medical campus in this country. Alexander von Humboldt is considered the father of geography, but more importantly was a humanist and a naturalist. He was probably one of the first to see the need for interdisciplinary collaborations, as he postulated. Everything in nature was interconnected. I wish our university would also understand this. The Humboldt Fellowship is aimed at fostering interdisciplinary interactions and research. Humboldt is supposed to have famously said, "The most dangerous worldview is the worldview of those who have not viewed the world." My own teacher, the late Professor Prakash Shetty, said something to me to that effect when I joined St. John's as a young faculty and encouraged me to go out for a brief period out of the country. This fellowship, I think, helps align with Humboldt's philosophy. Our students and faculty have won many prestigious fellowships. We are the recipients of the largest number of Rhodes Scholars in the country for any medical college. Many of our faculty have been awarded DBT Welcome Fellowships, including the Margdarshi. I hope after this meeting and workshop, we will have our own Humboldt Fellows. Welcome to St. John's and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. George. May I request the dignitaries to kindly take the front seat? We will now be initiating the keynote address. I would now request Dr. Dinakaran to kindly introduce the keynote speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. I'm going to give a brief introduction to Professor Siraj Hassan. Professor Siraj Hassan, the former director of the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, is a distinguished astrophysicist specializing in magnetohydrodynamic processes in the sun's atmosphere. He started his education at Mayo College in Ajmer with bachelor's degree in Aligarh Muslim University, master's in physics from Delhi University, and the doctorate in theoretical astrophysics from the University of Oxford in the UK. Professor Hassan served as director of the Indian Institute of Astrophysics from 2006 to 2012, followed by positions such as distinguished professor and honorary professor. His career is marked by international fellowships such as the Alexander von Humboldt and Smithsonian Fellowships, Commonwealth Award, and visiting faculty positions at prestigious premier institutions worldwide, such as the Center of Astrophysics at Harvard University, Department of Theoretical Physics at University of Oxford, the Queen Mary and Westfield College of London University, to name a few. Professor Hassan's research has significantly impacted solar physics, and he has guided many PhD students and postdocs. As director, he has initiated major programs, including a state-of-the-art National Large Telescope project in Ladakh, which will be one of the largest solar telescopes in the world. He is a member of various professional bodies, such as the Astronomical Society of India, the International Astronomical Union, and the American Astronomical Society, and currently serves as the board of the Institute of Plasma Research. Professor Hassan is also the president of the Oxford and Cambridge Society in Bangalore, and has earlier served as the president of the Alexander von Humboldt Association of Bangalore. I now request Professor Hassan to come on stage and provide us with the keynote address.
Father Jesudas Ramanekam, Professor Charles Davis, distinguished guests and participants to this workshop. First of all, let me say how thankful I am to Professor Charles in particular for inviting me to come for this workshop today. When he mentioned to me that there was this idea of organizing a workshop to talk about the programs of the Humboldt as well as the DAD, I was extremely happy because I've been associated, apart from being associated with the Humboldt Fellowship, I've also been actively, as you just heard, associated with the activities of alumni of the Humboldt Association for many years. And it's been, for the last few years, unfortunately, we have not had an occasion for the Humboldtians in Bangalore to get together. So I thought this was a wonderful opportunity. I also asked Father Charles about how many Humboldtians there were in St. John's Medical College, and he mentioned so far only one. But I hope that after this workshop, that number will increase tremendously, well beyond one. So this is indeed a great occasion. Before I begin my address, I should, on a personal note, say that I've been a neighbor to St. John's. I live in Koramangala. I've been a neighbor to St. John's Medical College for many years. Apart from using the hospital, I should also say that I've had many friends in St. John's in the college. I used to, early on, when I joined the institute, I used to play tennis on the sports grounds of St. John's Medical College, and made a lot of friends. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to keep touch with most of them, but nevertheless, I'm glad that this has provided an opportunity to rekindle this association with the St. John's Medical College. So I'm very grateful for that. Now, before I talk about I'm supposed to actually talk about my personal experiences and provide reminiscences of my time in Germany. Before I do that, I think it's important to set the scenes, so as to speak, about Humboldt. I don't know how many of you are aware about Alexander von Humboldt, what he's famous for, when he lived, what is his legacy, what is the charter, what are the objectives of the Humboldt Foundation. So I think some of these points, I think, it would be worthwhile for me to mention these before I start talking about my own personal experiences. So without further ado, so let me. So as you can see, this is a picture of Humboldt when he was very young in 1843. So he lived from 1769 to 1859. And he was, okay. Can you give me a color? Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now? Is it okay? So Humboldt lived mainly in the 18th and 19th century. He was a scientist, thinker, philosopher, and like many people of that generation, did not confine his interests to just one field. People like that time just worked about just about everything. So he worked in botany, geography, geology, physics, and astronomy. So if you look at the subjects that he covered, there's something in it for everybody out here, I can imagine. He was a great traveler, and as you can see in this map, how do you get the light? How does the pointer work? This one? No. Pointer. Okay. Anyway, I won't use a pointer. So you can see this map shows you his journeys, where he actually went away for many years. He spent a lot of his time in South America, where he was looking at different types of plants. His interest was at that time to a large extent in botany. So he spent many years. On his way back, he actually stopped by the US and he had become by that time a legend. So he was welcomed by the President of the United States. And anyway, so after that, he went back to Germany. And his contributions are numerous, but they were all captured in his magnum opus treatise called Cosmos. I tried to get it. It's very difficult to buy this book. I mean, if you do get it, it costs a fortune, and unfortunately was not easily available on the internet. So it's in 5 volumes, and it was written over several years. And today it's considered a real masterpiece. And the idea of the book grew when he was in South America, and when he was writing something called on the essay on the geography of plants. And after that, when he came back to Germany, he gave a series of 61 lectures. And actually, these lectures were sellouts. I mean, it was like, you couldn't get a place to sit in those things. You had to, there were people it was overflowing. And it was really the talk of the town to come and listen to Humboldt. So he was really a legend of his time. And the essential theme was in this major compilation was to represent the universe in these 5 volumes. Now, the Humboldt, I mean, this is a very quick, since this talk is not about the Humboldt Foundation or Humboldt, but I just thought I should just set the context. So you already heard, purpose of the foundation is provides opportunities for young academics to carry out research in Germany. And it has a very large number. As of now, they say there are almost 30,000 Humboldtians worldwide in many countries, and about 61 Nobel laureates have been Humboldtians. So you can see that it's got a galaxy of people who have participated in this program. Now, the Humboldt Foundation aims to strengthen academic contacts, not only between Germany and participants, but also between different Humboldtians as well. So they actually do foster this through their support to the various Humboldt associations worldwide. Now, it has many programs, and the flagship program, or I would say the flagship, the program which attracts the largest number of applicants is the Humboldt Research Fellowship, of which I was also, and my fellow co-panelists are also have been awarded this fellowship, and it is given by the Humboldt regardless. There is no quota for discipline or nationality or for anything. It is just purely based on merit. And to be eligible, you need to have a doctorate. At least you should have completed 4 years, typically 4 years, and not more than 12 years. So for fresh postdocs, the stipend is, I believe the current rate is 2,700 euros, and you can stay for up to 24 months, and you can also divide that into shorter segments, but the initial one has to be at least 6 months. And for experienced researchers, by experience, it means people who have completed, who are within 4 to 12. I beg your pardon. This is fresh postdocs. I'm sorry. The first category are people who have just completed their PhD up to 4 years, and the experienced ones are people who have completed 4 years and up to 12 years. So if you've got more than 12 years, then you are not eligible, and they get a little more money. Typically, they should be at the level of an assistant professor or equivalent. Now, the criterion, as I mentioned, is basically based on the academic record, the quality of publications, and the nature of the research project. You need to, of course, make contact with the research institute in Germany, find somebody who will serve as your academic host. And so once that handshake is done, then your application is complete, and then it is judged by a panel of experts, and the evaluation typically takes about 4 months. Now, in addition to the Humboldt Research Fellowships, you have a more prestigious award, which is called the Humboldt Research Award. It's given to internationally renowned people who have really established themselves in their field, and they get money. They get a prize sum of about 60,000 euros, and various academics from India have received this prize over the years. You cannot apply for this. You have to be nominated for this award. Then comes the next level, which is called the Alexander von Humboldt Professorship. And this is really given to much smaller number of people. Again, they have to be very distinguished, renowned in their fields. And the award, you get about 5 million euros for people who are working in experimental areas, and 3.5 million if you're working in theoretical areas, and you can use it over a period of 5 to 7 years. Again, you need to be nominated, typically by the vice chancellor or by the head of a major institution in Germany. Then there's other awards. You have the Carl Zeiss Humboldt Research Award for academics from STEM fields. It's about 100,000 euros, and this is for up to 12 months. And then there are a few others. I'm not going to mention all of them. You can read them. So these are different types. I should mention that a fairly equivalent in terms of fellowship amount is the Max Planck Institute also offers fellowships. But as I will point out later on, there are some qualitative differences between the Humboldt fellowships and those given by any other organization. But there is a joint award which is given with the Max Planck, and this is called the Max Planck Humboldt Research Award. And this is again, it's about 1.5. You get 80,000 euros plus you have more money for carrying out your research activities. So this completes the part related to work about Humboldt's legacy, and the various types of awards that Humboldt gives. But let me now turn to some more personal remarks. So as you heard, I'm an astrophysicist. That is, I work in astrophysics is the physics of the stars and galaxies and the universe and so on. And mainly my specialization is on the sun. I did my doctorate in theoretical astrophysics from the University of Oxford. And after I completed it, I joined the Indian Institute of Astrophysics in 1977 as a regular fellow, as a regular lecturer. Now, after being there for a few years, I learned about the Humboldt Research Fellowship, and it seemed to me the ideal kind of postdoc. I actually didn't do a postdoc. I came straight after my PhD, and it seemed like the ideal kind of postdoc to take up. And I chose an institute in Freiburg. It was earlier called the Fraunhofer Institute, and subsequently it was called the Kiepenheuer Institute. And it is one of the most renowned international centers in the world for research in solar physics. So on my first visit there, I spent 21 months there, apart from, and then later on, I did make shorter visits after that. So apart from the academic environment, it was a most rewarding experience in every sense of the term. So to derive the maximum benefit from this, I decided to take up the offer. The Humboldt also offers you a language course. And I took this. I thought this was very important because you can't live in a country and not speak the language. So I decided to take up this offer, and I did a 3-month language course in Freiburg itself, just before the fellowship began. So although this is strictly not a requirement for the fellowship, but it is strongly encouraged, and most people, in fact, actually do take it up. In addition to the applicant who gets it, the spouses, the accompanying partner, is also given an opportunity to do the language course, normally for 3 months, but in the case of my wife, as a special case, she let her do it. They let her do it for 6 months. So this was for both of us. This was wonderful that we got an opportunity to learn the language. I wouldn't say we were speaking fluently after this course, but it did provide us as a start to improving our language skills. Another memorable experience, which I'm sure many of my colleagues here must have also had, is called the Humboldt Reise, or a Humboldt trip, which is a trip for about 3 weeks to a month, which takes you around Germany. They take you around in a bus. So we started from Munich, went right around Germany, and went right up to Helgoland, which is a little island in the northern part of Germany, just outside Hamburg. So it's actually in the sea. So the reason I'm saying this is that you get a chance to see the diversity of the country. And not only the diversity in terms of the type of people who inhabit the region, but also you see the diversity in the type of monuments, the culture, the habits, the food. And they also took us to, we got to see the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra, which is a very, very difficult thing. I mean, it's very expensive. Most people can't afford to do it. And so they actually took us to, in Berlin, we got a chance to see. I don't think it was Herbert von Karajan, but it was somebody very well known. So this was something which I greatly cherish. So looking back at my research day, I think of it as one of the most intellectually satisfying periods of my professional career. It provided me a chance to focus in an uninterrupted way. After that, I had never been able to work in an uninterrupted manner. I mean, as and when you come home, you get involved in different types of responsibilities, I should say, which are not necessarily always academic, but they are related to academic. But there you could just focus full time on your research. And I think this is something which any person who is a researcher would really cherish. So this is something which and it was a time when I was, I think, pretty productive in terms of my research activity. So after I finished the Humboldt, I actually didn't come right back. I spent a little time in Oxford, my alma mater, and then after that, I spent a couple of years in the University of London before I returned to IIA to resume my regular position. Now, there's another thing I should point out, that unlike other fellowships, I mentioned the Max Planck as a kind of equivalent in terms of stipend and various opportunities. The Humboldt experience does not end the day you come back. It is, as they say, it's a lifelong association. So once a Humboldtian, always a Humboldtian. So it's a connection which is there forever. So after returning from IIA, returning from Germany, for that over the next 20 years, I've made frequent trips to Germany. And whenever my host wanted to invite me, all they had to do was to contact the Humboldt Association and say that Hassan wants to come over. Do you have any funds? And sure enough, Humboldt is always very generous, and they would provide the funds. In addition to my going to Germany, I was also able to invite people from Germany to come and visit my institute. And we've had a large number of visitors who have come with full support from the Humboldt Arts Association. Now, the last aspect which I would like to mention is the support Humboldt provides for organizing various types of workshops, or what they call the Humboldt Kolleg. Humboldt Kolleg is a big conference in which you can call a fairly large number of people. In my case, we had about 100 people, almost 100 people, coming from all over India, plus about 15 or so experts from Germany. And we organized this in 2011 on self-organized criticality, dynamics of complex systems. And my co-panelist, Professor Manju Bansal, was closely associated in the organization of this colleague. So now, just to kind of wrap up, I hope that subsequently I'll get an opportunity to interact with some of the groups. I'm told that we're going to have smaller groups. This will break out into smaller groups, and we'll get a chance to interact in more depth about this. But I should mention that the Humboldt Foundation, in a sense, encapsulates the spirit of Humboldt. But in a sort of way, today's workshop kind of is also in the spirit of the Humboldt legacy. So today we have, for example, Professor Father Charles Davis working in moral theology and ethics. We have Professor Manju Bansal, a structural biologist. We have Professor Ganeshan, a computational mathematician. We have Professor Shiv Kumar, an aerospace engineer, myself, an astrophysicist, and you in the audience, mostly in the medical field. So this I think is a perfect kind of example of a interdisciplinary fusion of people working in different fields, bringing the best of these together in a holistic way. So I'd like to thank Professor Father Charles Davis for inviting me and for taking the initiative to hold this workshop. And I look forward subsequently to interacting with you later on. Okay, so thank you.
If there are any questions from the audience? Dr. Ramesh?
Sir, I'm Dr. Ramesh. I'm a ENT surgeon and a professor also at St. George. Medical people also do this fellowship, sir. I mean, because I'm asking this is because certain aspects of science can be researched anywhere, whereas medical research requires work in a particular area in that country.
So what is the question? Can you just say that?
Medical doctors,
Yes.
are they involved with other than the theoretical aspects or very molecular biology or the basic sciences kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there's no barrier to the field you can. I mean, they are very, very flexible. And sometimes when I found in my experience that even when something is not strictly covered by the rules, and you write to them and make a good case for it, they normally agree to it. For example, like this is not hard coded that it has to be exactly 24 months. If you convince them that you are doing something worthwhile, you're at a critical stage where you need to more time, they'll give it to you. In the sense, now you're saying whether medical doctors are eligible for this. I don't see any, it doesn't say anywhere. It said irrespective of field. So, and also most doctors have PhDs anyway. So now in case somebody doesn't have a PhD, you could demonstrate the equivalent in terms of research publication or some experience or something, you know. I can't speak on behalf of the foundation, but I can only speak from what my understanding is of the way they respond to questions like this. Maybe,
but there were medical doctors from China and South Korea who did get the Humboldt fellowship, who were with me in Freiburg.
Okay, so that's your answer.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Sure. So if there's no more question, thank you. Sure. Thank you, Professor Siraj. You can take the front row. Now, as we move to the panel discussion, I would like to invite on stage Professor Manju Bansal, Professor Shashi Kumar, Dr. Shiva Kumar, and Father Charles. And to moderate the session will be Dr. Tony Raj, who is the Dean of St. John's Research Institute. Yeah, distinguished officers and invited faculty, our faculty here, students. It's my pleasure to moderate the session this afternoon, and I'd like to thank Reverend Dr. Charles and all the Humboldtians who are here, who are going to share their thoughts with us this afternoon. As a first, I'd like to introduce our panelists to you so that you get to know them better and then get a little background about
our panelists. So Professor Manju Bansal is an INSA honorary scientist and ex-professor of Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. As you see, she completed a PhD in 1977 in molecular biophysics, and her areas of interest have been, sorry about this, structural biology, computational modeling, genomics, molecular dynamics, simulations, and bioinformatics. We're very pleased to have you here this afternoon, Professor Manju. She's received several awards, as you can see from the slide above, and has been the founder director of the Institute of Bioinformatics and Applied Biology at Bangalore. Professor Sashi Kumar Ganeshan, the professor of computational and data sciences at the IISc Bangalore, and he's a PhD in computational mathematics, and his area of interest is very different from as you can see, all our panelists have very diverse experiences, and their areas of work are very different. His focus of interest is scientific machine learning, AI, ML, opposite scale, cloud computing, finite element analysis, high performance computing, data-driven models. He also heads a scientific machine learning and operations stars at the CDS at IISc. He has over 15 years of experience, 25 years of experience with several students, guided over 1,000 professionals, and in training on AI and ML. Welcome to St. John's. So is this? Dr. Shivakumar is an associate professor of aerospace engineering at IISc, with a PhD in aerospace engineering from 1999. As you can see, his area of specialization and interest is atomization process, biofuel sprays, spray characterization using optical diagnostics, and drop spray impact dynamics on solid surfaces. His experience in mechanics and thermodynamics of propulsion, rocket propulsion, aircraft engines, and experimental techniques to master. I mean, he's been training masters and graduate students. Welcome. And of course, our own Professor, Reverend Dr. Charles Davis, who's trained in both moral theology and bioethics, where he did his bioethics and stem cell research, and is second in the area of, sorry, I forgot that, in dignity and in religion, world religions. So he's published 2 books. As you can see, his areas of interest are very vast in moral theology, medical ethics, palliative care, bioethics, etc. And he comes in with this whole strength of ethics and human dignity that he brings to St. John's, which aligns well with our institute as well. So thank you, Father, again. So we'll now get going with the first speaker. Each of them will speak for a few minutes, and we'll then move on to the panel discussion, a few Q&A. So much.
So I'd like to thank the Humboldt fraternity at St. John's College for actually reigniting the Humboldt Humboldt alumni activities, because as Professor Hassan mentioned, he was sort of, involved in running the Humboldt Alumni Association for quite a few years, and subsequently I was involved in running it. And at IISc, we've had a couple of colleagues, and almost every year. Luckily for me, when I took over the Humboldt residentship, the German consulate opened actually in Bangalore. So we could actually get some both financial and moral support from the German consul who was based in Bangalore. And when we arranged a dinner after the meeting, he would actually turn up with the whole contingent of his staff from the consulate, and they seemed to really enjoy the whole function. So that was a very good thing to happen. But then COVID happened, and after that, I think during it and after that, the activities have toned down considerably, and we've not had any. So I do hope that this meeting will serve as a restarting point for those activities. But what I've been, of course, asked to speak up. Of course, Professor Hassan has given a wonderful overview of what Humboldt is about and a lot of the benefits in it. And I think towards the end, he also mentioned that while, they have certain set rules and, if you go to their site, it will tell you what are the criteria, but they are very, very open to it. And in some sense, I think I was naive when I applied. Actually, I had finished my PhD in 77, and 3 years I was a postdoc at IISc itself when I started, when I thought about going abroad, doing a postdoc. And so when I applied for Humboldt, it was with a very specific area I had in mind of structural biology. I come from a physics background. My master's was in physics, actually. So I had already done one movement from physics to biophysics, where still it was more of computational modeling, etc. And I wanted to get some hands-on experimental experience. And surprisingly, and I think without thinking about it, the place I chose to apply was the European Molecular Biology Laboratory in Heidelberg. And now that's not it's not a German institution at all. It's a part of the EMBO, that is the European Molecular Biology Organization. And I think most of you are too young to realize that there was no European Union in 1980. So it was in Germany, supported by the Federal Republic of Germany, which was at that time called West Germany. But so when I applied, actually, one of my colleagues even told me that probably you won't get it because it's not a German university or a German institution. But surprisingly, I applied and I did get it. And so when I landed up there, and as Professor Hassan mentioned, the Humboldt actually offers you this opportunity to do a 3-month German language course. But my host at EMBL, who also happened to be an American, he wasn't a German at all. And in fact, the whole group was full of Britishers and Americans. But the institute was wonderful. I mean, because for me, it was not like going to Germany, it was like going to the United Nations, because they had groups from all over Europe. And as I said, Europe was not a European Union at that time. But there was Portuguese, there were Italians, there were French, and Germans, Holland, Netherlands, Dutch people, etc., etc. So it was like an exposure to not just Germany, but the whole of Europe. And they also said that because they themselves are so diverse, they conduct courses for all the major European languages. And they said, I can do a German language course right at the institute. And as Professor Hassan mentioned, as part of the German language course, for other courses, if you did a French course, they would take you to France, for example, for a trip. But since those of us who were doing German language course, they took us to Austria because that was the only other German language country around. And they even took us to an opera there also. So it was great fun being there. And so I actually, fortunately for me, and partly because I did this 1-year postdoc at EMBL, whose director happened to be the laureate, Sir John Kendrew, and somehow, the group there was quite impressed with me, and with a recommendation from them, I actually did get an offer for a faculty position at IISc while I was in Germany itself. So I actually did only 1 year of my, and also actually, I actually got an offer from EMBL to continue even beyond my Humboldt fellowship. But once I got an offer from IISc, I decided to actually not accept that. So within 1 year, I came back to India, Bangalore, which surprised actually the EMBL people because EMBL was like a United Nations kind of an institution. And it had a lot of perks which are not usual in most places. And but then, as I said, it helped me to build an international friendship group almost, because many of them then went back to, America or England or wherever they were, and we kept in touch, and it was very helpful. So, but one more point, which I think Professor Hassan did mention, but which I benefited from, was when I came back as a young faculty and joined IISc. In those days, in 1981, 82, the computers were like, not all of us can buy a PC we all have at home. In those days, getting even desktop small computers was extremely difficult because India was under, embargo from America for large computers. So we could only get some small computers. And so my work coming back to India, I again went back to computational work. And I could ask Humboldt, and they actually funded me to buy a small computer. And it was a different matter that under Government of India rules, I had to go to Delhi to get a Department of Electronics clearance, even to get a gift computer from Humboldt Foundation. But it definitely was extremely helpful for the first 2 years of my research work. It helped this thing. So that, I think, is again another thing which Humboldt still continues to do, that you can get small pieces of equipment for your work after you return to India and if you have a position in India. So that was my first experience. And subsequently, I actually went back to EMBL, but at that time, as I said, since EMBL itself was a very rich institute, they funded my trip. So I went twice on an EMBL fellowship rather than on Humboldt. And 10 years later, then, after I had become an assistant professor actually at IISc, I actually availed Humboldt again. And this time it was in Berlin, actually at the Free University of Berlin, which was actually part of, it was called Free University Berlin because it was in what was West Germany. And again, that was a wonderful experience because the two Germanys had come together in 1990. So when I visited, and it was almost, it gives you goosebumps because when you walk along in Berlin, the wall was broken, but it was bits and pieces of it were still there. So the East Berlin and West Berlin part were still, you could see the difference when you walk across, though the wall was not there, you could see the difference between what was there, West Germany and East Germany. And so that was, as I said, both were quite different experiences, but work-wise, research-wise. And your hosts there, I think, I don't know if Humboldt instructs them or it is just natural. Your hosts literally treat you like their family. So again, I did not go to the Humboldt trip, which Professor Hassan mentioned, but in both places, in Heidelberg as well as in Berlin, every other weekend, my host would just say, no, we are going somewhere, you join us. So you just become almost like a part of their family. And then when you return back, return to India or wherever, then as he said, you can invite your host back. And my EMBL host, actually, he went back, he was in UK, so I couldn't use Humboldt for inviting, but my Berlin Free University host did visit Bangalore a couple of times, supported by Humboldt, once for a conference and once just on a short visit for giving some lectures. So these are all the benefits. Now, the other thing, of course, what I was told was that collaborations can continue. And even though I didn't have a formal collaboration, but you're always in touch, and I have published papers with my hosts both from EMBL and from Free University together. So fortunately, in the 90s and 2000, because email and e-communication became so easy, so collaboration became much easier than it used to be earlier, and one can take full advantage of that. And so I think it provides an excellent opportunity for people. And as Professor Hassan again mentioned, I mean, I see a lot of girls here also. So as he said, if you are there, they provide you spousal support. They even provide you child support if you go with a full family. And that, I think, is very rare. I mean, there are very few fellowships which do that. So if, any of you young girls want to do that, I mean, my husband actually, fortunately, he's an academic, so he had his own grant to go to UK, but he spent 2-3 weeks in Germany with me. And even for that period, I could get support for him also. So whether it is short or long, the German, this thing, you can also get support for attending, while you are there, you can also get funds for attending conferences in at least within Europe, you can go for this thing. And I think I did make use of that to attend a couple of conferences, one in Italy and one in UK, for example. So there are no, and so more than one is the research part, which, as he said, you can spend full time just doing research. I think it is the networking and the, collaborations and the friends that you make when you are on this kind of a trip outside, which is quite different from being a postdoc in USA, is what I have found, because, I've spent several summers in USA also, but somehow the ambience there is quite different. It's much more focused, more just on your research sort of thing. But as part of the Humboldt and in Germany, at least, apart from the science, I think the social aspects of it are wonderful. And they help you in your futures as a scientist. And I think it also helps you to develop new areas. If you want to shift from one area to another, you can use Humboldt to do that, because you're going with your own fellowship. So the labs are also less restrictive. You can start working on something in which you don't have a background. Whereas if you go for a postdoc, which is funded by your professor, they generally expect you to work exactly on what their lab is working on. So this gives you is one of the fellowships which gives you a lot of that kind of flexibility. And the only other one I can think of is like in USA, if you go on a Fulbright fellowship, which also I have gone twice. That also, because you go with your own funds, your own support, you are a little bit more independent than going as a regular postdoc to American lab. So I think my time is kind of over. So.
I now call upon Professor Sashi Kumar, the nation, to share his thoughts.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank once again the organizers for inviting me and providing the opportunity to interact with you all. As you know, that my background is completely different, or I would say the diverse compared to the areas that you are working on. But irrespective of that, the topic connects us together. So before even start, how many of you really want to go to Germany for a fellowship or higher studies in the crowd? How many of you really wants to go to Germany? Right. So have you ever explored what are the opportunities you have? Right. So there are two funding agencies, right? You have to look into it. One is like Humboldt, what we are going to discuss, what we have been discussing so far, right? Another is the DAD, right? DAD fellowship. And especially if you're looking for even starting from a master's or even the doctoral, or even the faculty, those who are planning to visit like 1 or 2 months, like university professor kind of thing, DAD supports. And because the Humboldt is primarily for the postdoctoral one. If you are in the pre-doc kind of applications, right, you have to look into the DAD. And DAD India is having an excellent portal, right? You go to the DAD India portal, just Google it, DAD India. And then there you can enter all your criteria and look, and it will give the list of possible fellowships that you can get. Not only from DAD, it from all other fellowships as well, even from the Max Planck Institute fellowship or some other fellowships as well, right? So if you're really looking to go to Germany, it's a wonderful country, right? You'll get a lot of different culture, different experience of doing research, and also the punctuality and other things will be completely different. You will be learning a lot. And more than that, right? The faculties, this is what I always say, that to become friends with German is very tougher. But once you become friends with Germans, right, it's even tougher to become or to lose your friendship, right? So this is what I always say, that, for example, even if after 5 years, 2 years, we go and meet, or even just they coming and meeting, you just start from where you live, right? That's kind of like connections the Germans should make with you, right? Either it could be, even if you go to walk into the consulate, probably we might have met only once or twice, but when you walk in, right, that's how the bond they bring, right? So that's a completely different experience. One should differently explore it. But DAD and the Humboldt, right? These are the two things you should explore. But before that, you explore what are the fellowship that you have. Just on the topic, right? So I'm going to talk about the differentiator, right? Of course, you will get a lot of fellowships. If we are looking for only the fellowship or the funding to do some research work, you will get a number of places. But what makes the Humboldt special? That's very important thing you have to look into it. And the differentiator, I will come at the last, right? the first thing we have discussed about the institutional collaborations and other thing, even once you come back, right? I'm not talking about the fellowship and then the facilities, all these things that the previous speakers have discussed. It's all about other add-ons associated with the Humboldt fellowships makes this is unique and special. The first thing is institute collaborations, even after coming back, right, from your fellowship. Then once Humboldt, you will be a Humboldtian, right? Once Humboldtian, you will be lifelong Humboldtian. But in addition to that, right, you can also write joint proposal. There are fundings and also the fundings for instruments. Now it's even higher, like 50,000 euros and so on. That's a really huge fund you can apply for. And more than the funding, right, what makes the really interesting thing is about the networking and collaborations. You can organize the workshops, Humboldt colleagues, all these things. You just write an email to the consulate or the DAD office here. They will be able to support all your local hospitality and other things. They will be very happy to host you. So you can invite the Germans, not only about you go there, once you return back to India, and then you can invite the Humboldt professors, different professors. They fund their complete travel and the stay here. And more than that, not only that, right, you can also become a host for the Humboldt fellows, right? They got outgoing fellows, right? The Germans, for German students, you can become a host, right? The Humboldt Foundation again supports. There are a lot of plenty of supports, and especially from the networking and collaborations perspective. The research grant, right? You can also write the research grant, small research grants and other thing. But more than that, right? What equipment grant and other thing, even the book grant, especially when you're starting as a first young faculty, you might not have like a huge seed fund or so. So you will be getting the book grant and so on. So to jumpstart your career, after coming back, right? They will take care, at least in the initial days. You can rely on in the initial days. And then especially the capacity building, and then you can keep on running these workshops and other thing. If at all you want to organize some workshops, and they are very flexible and they will be happy to guide you. And these are the fellowships. And one of the fellowships which I like most is the written fellowship. Every 3 years, 3 months, again, you can go. And in fact, you can go with your family, with your children. All of them will get funded. And in addition to your fellowship. And also it's not fixed. And based on your career stages, seniority, right? Every year, right? Your fellowship amount will also be vary. And also you can spend your summer in Germany, right? The good fellowships. And you can also visit a couple of places. It need not be only one host. So a lot of other, the last point, as I mentioned, about the differentiator. So, for example, everyone do the PhD, and it's not like the put all your application, whenever you are doing PhD, right? Eventually, you're looking for like maybe the faculty position or any other positions. But if you have like 10 applications, they're shortlisting, and if your application want to differentiator or your application wants to be shortlisted, right? Definitely these Humboldt fellowship, the tag will definitely help you, right? That's a differentiator. And these are the additional perks in addition to the excellent fellowships and the host, right? So with this, I stop. And the last slide is about the collaboration that you are interested in. St. John's is interested about, especially now we are talking about in there of AI and machine learning. If there are interest, want to have like a lot of data, and if at all want to have any collaborations, want to develop an AI model for any of these applications, medical related applications, I'm happy to discuss and looking forward. Or any other interactions, doubts if you're having, we will take the questions during the Q&A session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Sashi Kumar. That was a good brief, and thank you for your offer. We're very happy to take that up. We'll discuss it later. Now I invite Dr. Shiv Kumar to share his thoughts, his experiences.
Thank you. I think Professor Hassan and Professor Manjuman sir and Professor Sashi Kumar, he already talked a lot about Humboldt activities and what you gain when you are visiting such a place. So when Professor Charles talked to me, he just wanted to indicate to the student how, what kind of experience I got from Humboldt Association and how it got transformed into my current activities. So I put up a few slides which basically highlight what I learned from Humboldt work and what I'm doing currently, actually. Sometime back, Professor Manjuman sir was highlighting that
Humboldt Foundation basically provides an opportunity where you don't have experience. There is, you can propose your own new topic of work, and you go ahead and learn, and eventually that will become part of your research. And which happened to me. That's what I'm going to talk about it. The topic what I learned from there is what you call droplet impact. This is, you see it in everyday application, for example, engines or even pesticide spraying or paint spray coating, where numerous droplets are impinged. But my PhD work, if you look at it, that's not on droplet impact. It is on sprays. I work for rocket engine injectors, where I looked at dynamically what kind of spray is developing. This is totally different from what you call the droplet impingement. So as soon as I graduate from, as soon as I submit my doctoral thesis at IISc, I got a position at Georgia Tech, which I went before receiving the degree. Humboldt Foundation basically requires you should have a doctoral degree at the time you get into the fellowship. That's the essential requirement. So I went to Georgia Tech, where I got an opportunity to work in chemical mechanical policing, which I say it is linked to chip making industry, although my task was to look at the fluid dynamic part of such a tribological work. So my advisor at Georgia Tech, Professor Yoda, actually, she's a Humboldt fellow, actually. So I was talking to her. I came from aerospace. Now I'm in a topic which I don't want to proceed. She was the best person to encourage me to look at basic research, fundamental topic, which you don't get it in, the conventional postdoc. That's how I found that was the first trigger. And my thesis work is already reviewed by Professor Meyer from DLR Lambertshausen, which is like NASA or our ISRO centers. And he reviewed it. That also provided a link. That's how I identified my host, Professor Topea from Technical University of Darmstadt. And the topic I worked is completely new. I looked at, I think we both, because I have a good experience on sprays, and he started looking at not aerospace topic, which is completely different from what you see it in day-to-day applications. So I started working on spray impact. That's where this topic evolved. Spray impact is a complicated work. So one of the observations we came into out of this study is you cannot look at 1,000 impacts on a surface. You try to look at a single impact. That's how the topic of droplet impact evolved. So this was parallelly done in the same lab next to our lab, the same building. One of my friends on Riobo was carrying out droplet impact research, and he was doing it. And so when I returned back to, so we used to work, we look at it. Mine is a larger, complicated work. His is a simplified problem of what I'm doing. So when I returned back to IISc in 2005, I basically replicated what Riobo was done, and in my laboratory. So we constructed the same experimental facility, although the facility went through a lot of changes, and as it goes through the over the years, and we looked at droplets. So with this, I have been working on this topic for last several years, and we carried out, almost 11 thesis work came out of this study. I'm still working on that. We looked at several problems, and we continue to work, and currently a research student is working on the same topic, but he looked at impact on your flexible surface. You can imagine pesticide spraying on plant leaves. This is so different from aerospace engineering. So my faculties, my colleagues, they look at me in a different way because the problem is so different from what I'm doing. I mean, what the aerospace community normally encounter. But it has become part of my research. I continue to work on it, although I do work in biofuel sprays and rocket injectors. I do that. It continued to grow. And I keep, when I joined the institute, I was the only one working on the topic. Today we have around almost 8 to 10 faculties working on a similar topic, actually. And I still have very good contact with my host, Professor Tropea. He's a very kind man. And of course, he's not a German, he's a Canadian, but settled in Germany. His wife is a German. And he continues to motivate, actually. And he was with us for 2 years back under our SERB fellowship, when Vajra faculty fellowship is available. And currently there are 6 of our faculties collaborate with him, and we interact with him. I myself has interacted with him in a problem, not on a droplet impact, on a similar, different topic, actually. So, so this is a summary I just wanted to put out. The experience paves the way to, develop a very basic research, what you needed, actually, which you can't get it in a postdoc. You go in a sponsored research postdoc, you have to work on your particular topic, what they are going to suggest. Like Professor Manjubansal said, if you wanted to really, branch out a new topic, this provides an opportunity, actually. And of course, like the others mentioned, I also visited a few times under the foundation support, a couple of times for a conference, and also one time for a 15-day workshop. Of course, we can continue to interact with them for once in 3 months short trip, all these things, which Professor Hassan already mentioned the opportunities, and we continue to do. Okay, there I will conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shekinath. I think we'll probably be reaching out to you as well, because you are an expert in sprays, and I see several connects with the healthcare domain where we use sprays in various clinical settings. And I'm sure. Now I invite Reverend Dr. Charles Davis, our Associate Director for the Medical College and Research Institute, to share his experiences as a Humboldt Fellow.
Thank you, Dr. Tony. The other Humboldtians, the esteemed guest speakers today have spoken more on Humboldt fellowships and then research opportunities in Germany. Probably when I run through the visuals, the pictures might attract you, and I hope some of you will also be interested to apply. Of course, it all depends how our present work is presented to them. That has the impact, impresses them to decide to give us the fellowship. So Germany actually has now 423 higher educational institutions, among which 309 are public and 114 are private. The total number of students in higher educational institutions in Germany is now 2.8 million. And North Rhine-Westphalia leads with the highest number of students at 7 lakh plus. How do we choose the right university? Prospective students can choose between different types of higher education institutions in Germany. There are universities of applied sciences, private universities, and universities of cooperative education in many different German cities. every type of higher education institution has particular area specialization. As you see in the map, there are major cities there, and almost every city is known for certain specific area of research or for cultural activity or something that is unique. In the 2022 winter semester, there were 2.92 million students in Germany, including 1.7 million, about 1.1 million, there's something is cut there. So about 4.5 lakh international students were there. I love these words, the Germany is a land of ideas. This is the beautiful bridge near Cologne Cathedral. I just put some of these pictures so that you get motivated to visit them. Germany is not only a land of ideas, but it is also a land of poets and thinkers. See some of those names: Goethe, you have Schiller, you have Kant, you have Luther. Kant, for example, traveled all throughout his life only 17 kilometers, but his book, The Metaphysics of Morals, has traveled every corner of the world. So if you want to study in Germany, there are many opportunities, and one of them is DAAD, German Academy Exchange Service. You can always apply them through Indian offices, but how it happened to me is I reached actually Frankfurt, and I got a language fellowship by a diocese called Limburg, and while I was doing in fact, I finished the language course faster than what they expected. So in 5 months, I gave the state exam and then I could start the study. In the first semester, they asked me to do 3 exams. And one of the conditions my guide told me is, don't bring what you have done already in India. Something new you have to do. So one oral exam, one written exam, one paper. I think that impressed him. So he, through the university also, he can get the scholarships. So while being in Germany, I got the DAAD scholarship for my PhD. So the history of DAAD, they say this, in 1922, a student from Heidelberg visited the United States and organized scholarships for fellow students in New York. It was a project that ultimately became the DAAD, a success story. And I think there are a lot of private agencies also in Germany giving scholarships in addition to the government agencies. This is the motto of DAAD, change by exchange. So exchange promotes understanding between countries and individuals and helps secure the peace. New scientific findings enable us to meet global challenges. Cooperation contributes to political and social progress. I see the amount of money they spent in a year through that. Most of them are in the forms of scholarships. I think DAAD is the world's largest funding organization for the international exchange of students and researchers. If you want, you must go and search for yourself more to learn about it. This was my PhD, die ertickte embryonalen Stammzellforschung grundsätze für eine indische Gesetzgebung. The ethics of human embryonic stem cell research. Actually, when the guide asked me, what do you want to write? I was just telling something that I had done on ethics in India. And then I thought something that India is struggling with caste system or something like that. He said, no, you have not come to do what you know already, just to do something new. He asked me what is stem cell research. I had no clue idea at all. So I told him I'll go back to my room and come back to you after a couple of days. So I went back, I said, yes, I shall do that. So embryonic stem cell research began in 1998, I suppose, by Thompson, when the book in the magazine Nature, there was an article when that embryos, the mouse embryo could be broken and then the innermost cell could be taken. And with that embryonic stem cells, you could do marvelous wonders. That was the postulation. And that was applied parallel to human life. And then they thought that we are going to do wonders by doing research with embryonic stem cells. How do we obtain embryonic stem cells? Naturally, we will have to break the surplus embryos that are lying after the IVF processes. So many thought, naturally so, because our eyes, our hair, our ear, all that come from that one fertilized cell. So the postulation was correct, but the clinical results were horrible. So my area was not merely on the scientific aspect of it, but ethical aspects of it. In China, they tried to inject the embryonic stem cell into a patient who had brain tumor, thinking that that will replace the dead cells and regenerate new neural cells. But on the contrary, he became like a monster. He grew bigger and bigger, and finally they had to put him to rest. So my defense was not only it is ethically wrong, but clinically had no success. And probably when I published this book, I had to run after a few parliamentarians asking them, please speak about my book in the parliament, and try to convince that India should not do research with embryos because embryos are also humans. That was my defense. The goals are noble, to find cures for incurable diseases like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's using these embryonic stem cell lines. But the end does not justify the means. The noble goal does not justify the means. The means is you are breaking the embryo and the embryo ultimately dies. In other words, you are killing the embryo. So I used to go to ICMR very often and meet Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Dr. Geeta Jotwani or something. So somehow I managed, and fortunately, I think India is not doing actively research with embryonic stem cell lines. One, Dr. Nivedita Lenga was doing it National Stem Cell Center in Pune. And that time I came here in 2010. I interviewed Dr. Cecil Ross whether they are doing any stem cell research here. He said he is doing something with leukemia cells, but not using embryos. So this became a success story. And I actually advocate, instead of embryonic stem cells, you can use adult stem cells for research, and that has shown a lot of successes. And even Pope Benedict has actively advocated that we not only oppose the embryonic stem cell research, but actively promote somatic cell researches. So this is in picture. This is one of the pictures from my defense. So if you don't take the blastocyst, the inner cell from the blastocyst, automatically the child will grow. And because this als baby, yeah. So human beings grow always as humans, never unto humans, never unto person, never unto objects of research. Yeah. So when I gave this book to one of the professors from Germany while I was giving a talk in Bombay, he was impressed. He said, the second line, proposal for a legal framework in India, how successful have you been? He said, but I cannot measure it, but at least I have made some impact, I said. Then he said, this is a social contribution which will definitely have impact. Therefore, I think you can get a Humboldt Fellowship. So he invited me. Eberhard Schopenhauer was the professor from the University of Freiburg. And he happened to be also the vice president of the German Ethics Council of the country. And he naturally knew my own guide from Frankfurt, Father Joseph Schuster. So that became the network easy for me. So he invited me with already arranged scholarship from Missio to write a proposal. So I wrote a proposal that rational moral qualities are not sufficient to defend human lives or protect human lives. So I wanted to give some new topic that human dignity is the foundational bioethical principles. So the proposal was accepted. I think these days, not 4 months, they take about 9 months to decide to give us the Humboldt Fellowship. And that's how I got it after 9 months of my. The vision of Humboldt is excellence verbindet. Excellence unites us. Yeah. And as that, Humboldt Foundation also has a lot of financing. So you can see annual budget is about 60 million euro, and more than 97% of which is publicly financed by the Federation. And you see that BMZ, Bundesministerium Zusammenarbeit und Entwicklung. So sponsorship of international academies as part of our cultural and educational policy. Main activities sponsoring postdoctoral research fellowships, and I think the Chancellor Awards, Chancellor Fellowships are also given for masters. So those who are to do masters also, there are other opportunities, but these days even Chancellor Fellowships are also coordinated by the Humboldt Fellowship, Humboldt Foundation. This Dr. Hassan has explained to you just in pictures again. So research fellowships and research awards are given to highly qualified scientists and scholars from all countries, from all disciplines. There is no barrier at all. So the benefits were also, some of my colleagues have explained to you that family benefits are there. And even while you are in Germany, you can also go to other countries. With your research period, you can choose to do a few months in other places. I made a visit to Washington and they also helped me for travel. So this sponsorship includes travel allowance, research fellowship for language, family allowance, monthly stipend, conference allowance, stays at other European research institutions, etc. So some of these pictures, maybe I can mail all these things to you so that you can also go through personally. Some of other fellowships coordinated by Alexander Humboldt Foundation. So in this book, Human Dignity in World Religions, I am trying to promote European Union bioethics, which in addition to the American bioethics, which speaks about autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficent justice, European Union bioethics found that those 4 principles of Childress and Beecham are not sufficient to deal with all the bioethical issues. So therefore, they promoted vulnerability, integrity, and dignity being the foundational bioethical principle. And that I use it for global bioethics and biolaw. So some of my public talks is live motorshop in Indian. In other words, it is surrogacy in India. So annual meetings, sometimes we have, I heard it in Dresden, and all the Humboldtians, those who are in Germany are invited. Sometimes they also invite after we have returned to one's own country. And in my batch, when we made the tour to whole Germany for I think 21 days or something, we went to different parts of Germany, from budget hotel to the 5-star hotels experience, from cultural institution to top universities. And for example, we also had a place called Security Science Institute in Strasbourg. And you see in this picture, only I am Indian. So all others, my companions from China, Korea, Italy, etc. So this is the team that we went around. And one of the most beautiful places I saw was Klein Berlin. That place where exactly was like Berlin Wall was broken, and one village was divided into 2, and they called it Klein Berlin. So this president has my book in his hand, my doctoral thesis I gave him, and this is the first lady, the wife of the president. Some of the privileges that we have when you had to get these scholarships. And I think I got the membership in Fontenelle Academy for Life in Vatican because I became a Humboldt Fellow. And then recently, last week, I was reappointed for another term of 5 years by Fontenelle Academy for Life. Some of these privileges some of these privileges are, I think I owe to Humboldt Foundation for their support. So this Dr. Hassan has explained. So this is the beautiful statement. I love it. We sponsor people, not projects. Any topic, anything that you come up with, you can convince them that will be supported. So this year's people who have been selected as Humboldt professors, and there are around 30,000 Humboldtians worldwide. Some of these places where more researchers are getting, I think I was in Freiburg down south, that is also, there are a lot of Humboldtians actually. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Charles. We'll move on to the panel discussion of questions. I have a few questions lined up for our panelists. The first question is directed to Professor Manju Bansal. You already gave us a hint about it, but just wanted you to share, how did the Humboldt Fellowship facilitate your aspirations as a young researcher? And more importantly, what inspired you to come back? You mentioned that you had an opportunity at a EMVL, which was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you asked the question, because I realized that maybe I should have mentioned some of those points. So two things. That one, I'll answer the second one first. That what inspired me to come back was that, in a way, it made me appreciate IISc more, and especially at least the group with which I had worked. I should have maybe mentioned that I did my PhD with Professor G.N. Ramachandran, who was a kind of, I think even till today, in post-independent India, he has been a potential Nobel laureate level scientist who, when I went to Germany, and as I said, the director of that institute was a Nobel laureate himself. When I was introduced to him, and I said, he asked me where I did my PhD, and I said, with Professor Ramachandran at IISc. He said, "Oh, Rama, I know him, and he should have got a Nobel Prize, but for whatever reason he didn't get it." And what I found also when discussing with him was that there's no need for, at least I think, if you do your PhD from a good laboratory, you don't need to feel nervous or hesitant to speak. And I think more than anything, I think I built my self-confidence more there, because when we are in India, and even when you get visitors, I think we do lack self-confidence, especially I think in the 70s. I think the young people today don't lack self-confidence. But I think in the 70s, being a girl and, changing from physics to biophysics and working with a Diane like Professor Ramachandran, who was not easy to work with or to interact with very easily. For me, it was an eye-opener to go there and find that I could, at least scientifically, I could hold my own among those people. And it also made me realize that you can do good research in India also. You don't have to, because otherwise, again, in the late 70s, early 80s, from my own department, I was the only person who came back. Everybody else went off to America and never came back. This thing. So, in fact, when I applied for Humboldt, and I was, I needed the documents to get my passport, my office in molecular biophysics unit, they were shocked. They said, "You finished your PhD 3 years back and you're only applying for passport now," because most people got their passport when they were writing their PhD thesis, rather than wait to get your degree. So that was one thing. So that it did inspire. And I don't know if I would have come back if I had not got a faculty position at a place like IISc. But I did have a job offer from CCMB. And that again had to do with being at EMBL as a Humboldt Fellow, because I got exposed to areas. EMBL was a front of real research institute. So I got exposed, apart from the work I did for my PhD, which I said, incidentally, being in a medical lab, I should mention my work was on the fibrous protein collagen and the diseases related to collagen misexpression and, the hydroxylation of hydroxyproline, et cetera, et cetera. So apart from that, I got exposed to electron microscopy, et cetera, several areas which at that time were nascent in India. And so it, as I said, that exposure was there. And since I got these job offers, I realized that I can come back and do that. And maybe I should also put a personal note on it that I was married. I actually went to Germany within 1 year of getting married. And one of the things, the cultural difference was that many people there said that, how could you leave your husband and come away? Will he wait for you? Or will your marriage break up by the time you go back? You know, so that was, and I found it very strange because I think the thought had not even occurred to me that that could happen, but that's how it is. So that was, as I said, various reasons. My husband didn't want to also migrate, though he was an engineer. And when they offered me a job, they actually said, oh, your husband is an engineer with a PhD. He can definitely get a job in Germany. But for whatever reason, we both decided that we wanted to be in India. Now, how it helped to build the career was, as I said, it exposed me to so many different areas of work there. And one of the areas which it exposed was, apart from these new or advanced experimental techniques of using synchrotron for, doing structural biology, or electron microscopy, cryo-electron microscopy for doing, tissue culture, large complexes of biomolecules. I also realized that was the time when large biological data started coming out, and using computational methods for analysis and making sense of that data was becoming more and more important. And so that was another area which opened up for me, rather than concentrating on one molecule or one system and looking at large data sets and looking at that. And when I came back to India, and since as I said, I again started doing more of computational biology, I kept doing that. That is, looking at data as it came out from large data sets and trying to make sense out of it. And that finally became interesting, because then from structural biology, I also went to genome analysis, sequence analysis, regulatory regions in DNA, in genomes, which were coined as junk DNA. We started looking for important biological function and small segments of that DNA, which are important. So doing genome analysis and bioinformatics, which again led to my being asked to set up the Bioinformatics Institute in Bangalore. So it's the career, as I said, it was progressive. A lot of it was not planned. But I think if you keep your eyes open for opportunities and make the best of what you have, you can go a long way.
Thank you, Professor Bansal. That's truly inspirational in your story of coming back to India to build capacity here. Thank you so much. Professor Sashikumar, did you face any challenges while applying for your Humboldt Fellowship, and how did you overcome them, or during your fellowship?
Okay, so in terms of challenges, typically when you're in Germany, right, it is not like in like Indian funding agencies, you don't get reply response anything when you write it back, right? So whereas in Germany, you write just the import AVH, right? You will get the response within a day or two, right? Irrespective of whatever the query you are, right? You will get the right response. So in terms of the challenges, not really. But because I did my PhD in Germany, so in order to apply for a Humboldt Fellowship, right? And also after the post-PhD, I continued in the same research group for about a year or so. So to apply the Humboldt Fellowship, right, you should not have stayed more than 6 months after post your PhD continuously. So I'm basically ineligible to apply. But in order to mitigate that, what I have done is, right, I went for a postdoc not too far from Germany to UK, to Imperial College. And I stayed there for 1 year. If you stayed 1 year out of country, then you will become eligible. Then I became eligible, then started applying back, and then I want to come back to Germany, and then I applied for Humboldt Fellowship. I got the fellowship, and then said, that's the only challenge, I would say, but it's not really a challenge. So you will get all this information when you write to info, right? Even if you think that if your field is whether you're going to support it or not, right? All these queries, you can put them, you will get the right answer. So it's not really a challenge, but the technically it's infeasible to apply, but you can manage it. If you are really smart, then you have to work it around. You can get it.
Thank you so much. Professor Shivkumar, you've already shared your thoughts with us on this, but on the lines of the question I have, how did the Humboldt Fellowship supported research training facilitate your research when you got back? But you also shared that during your speech, but how has it strengthened over the years?
Yeah, when you return back to your home country, as Professor Hassan already mentioned, you can get several kinds of support from Humboldt. There is also a starting career, initiative. That is, as soon as you return back, you wanted to establish a lab, you will be approaching, you will be lack of funding. So they normally provide. So several of my, although I have not got it, but several of my colleagues, Professor Alam from JNC and my own friend from mechanical engineering, IIT Madras, they got funding actually from Humboldt as a, but this is not going to be a very huge support. This is a part of your support. It's not going to come like our typical project funding, but they will provide a limited support for some kind of equipment to purchase and put it, like Professor Manju Bansal said, the computer. That kind of support, you get it when you start your career. Beyond that, subsequently, as many of us mentioned, you can visit whenever you want. For example, if there is a conference is being held at Germany, you don't have to, you get full support from the foundation. You can visit the conference, your travel support, your stay support, everything you can gain. What you need to do is you just inform the foundation and get it. And another thing is, even if outside Germany, say if I'm going for a conference in UK, you will get, for example, the registration fee, those support, you get it. A part of support will be covered by the foundation. And you also have, infinite number of workshops. Whenever a workshop is held in Germany, for example, I had 2 such encounters. It was a workshop involving several faculties from Europe. They came together and they talk about certain special topics. I went there, and as part of this thing, I just informed the foundation that this is the plan, but they contact the host institute. They will take care of everything. You don't have to do much work, actually. This, you can gain, but in today's scenarios, a lot change. In fact, you get a lot of funding from our own country to, we don't access. But the important thing is the availability for collaboration. That is still existing, actually. You talk to them, they will be readily available to interact, and even they are ready to visit our country. In fact, so my host, Professor Topia, before he took Vajra Fellowship, he visited several times to our place. And he talked to us and interact with us. And eventually he came for a long stay under Vajra Fellowship. So there is a lot of opportunities which go on throughout your career.
Thank you, Professor Shivkumar. I think you've enlightened us about the fellowship. And as Professor Hassan mentioned, once a Humboldt Fellow, you're a lifetime Humboldt Fellow. And I think that's a wonderful experience to, be a part of. Now to our own Reverend Dr. Charles Davis. I think since the entire audience are mainly health science researchers and faculty, and this question already has come up in the first few minutes, are there opportunities for researchers working in the health sciences to apply and secure a Humboldt Fellowship? You did say yes, but what's the eligibility? Because I think I'm hearing it's mainly postdoc in the health sciences, at least it's MD, DM, MCH, or a master's in one of the health sciences. So,
thank you for the question. Definitely, there are opportunities. I may not know exactly how this eligibility is defined for medical doctors to do or get fellowships, but I do know, by the way, when I was doing my postdoc, I combined also with the university to get another degree. It's called habilitation. In English, we can call it second PhD. So along with that, since I am a Catholic priest, I used to also go to the university hospitals as chaplain for mass, for counseling patients or guiding them in deciding their treatment, etc. So there I found Humboldt fellows who are medical doctors from China, South Korea. They got Humboldt fellowship and they were doing, let's say, about 12 months, 24 months kind of training. For example, neurology department is the top one in private university. So I think they came with a specific purpose of learning some things. While I was in Frankfurt University Hospital is known for department of psychiatry and also for orthopedics. So there also I used to see some foreign students coming and doing extra training. So maybe like an observership. You get the fellowship and be with them. Actually, the fellowships are given for sustainability, how we survive there, that's so definitely there are possibilities. Only thing I can tell is our people here need to get into this website, write that just one email only, info@abh.a. You write, as Dr. Shajikumar said, they respond promptly and you get right answers.
Thank you so much, Dr. Charles. I'll now open up the questions to the floor. If anyone has any questions, I know some of you all have shared questions on the forms that we had sent out, but if you can, we'll take a few questions. I know we've run out of time for the group sessions, but a couple of questions, if there are any questions that haven't been answered.
Father, the question is for you, Father Charles. How do we know where, I don't know Germany much. So how do we know which are the areas in Germany where we can value add to our profession and will be of use to India? Now, how do you get to know which are the specialized areas in German universities?
Yeah. See, according to one's own interest, you can search and you will find what is it. So actually, philosophy, theology, technology, science, in every field, they are very, very well appreciated and excellent faculties are there. To find a particular area of interest, you'll have to just write to them or write to the university. Or you just Google. I think all the data information with regard to which university is known for which subject, all these things are there. Yeah, it's not difficult at all.
Just to add, right, the way you should do is, right, because in Germany that the rankings, university rankings and all, like they don't follow all these things, right? Even you find like an excellent research group, the top research groups in some XY universities you might not even hear. So don't go by just like the naming ranking of the universities. So you just look at the type like list of German universities and then immediately you'll get the link, open to the German universities, look at the number of departments and then go to the department that are relevant to you. And then look at the faculty, they're really good at it, right? So if the faculty matches, then you directly write to them or you can get networking and otherwise and you can start applying. So don't look at only in terms of the ranking. You have to look at the research group because in Germany, the research groups are highly valued. Doesn't matter which university the faculty is working on.
Dr. Shajikumar, as you are at it, machine learning is one of your areas of interest.
Yeah, sure.
And if you look at it from from a technology point of view, what does Germany have to offer extra in that domain? I'm a little bit into machine learning, not an expert, just beginning to learn it.
Okay, so in terms of then you have to look at the informatic departments at the respective universities. But if you look at traditionally the German universities, they're not really like the top runners in terms of the informatics. They're good at basic sciences, engineering, right? Even the research in the biological researches and other fields, not in terms of the bio or informatic, not bio, right? Informatic. But still you can find there's a lot of faculties, right? Or the foreign faculty members working in the computing departments of the respective universities. But if you ask like what different they offer, what value add, I don't think they will be adding. We have to go there and we have to add value to our research, right? So, so if we believe that we are going there and then we get like value added, that's not going to happen. They will provide the all the facilities and also atmosphere, and it's up to us to explore and then become an value added additions, and I think we have to add it. This is how what I believe. So it doesn't matter which university you go. So you get almost in all universities an excellent atmosphere.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, there's one question that has come up through the system that we had shared from our forms. How can current PhD students and postdoctoral researchers prepare strong applications for these scholarships? Which I think they're asking, can we lean on some of our local Humboldtians to give them some tips? Anyone can take this.
Maybe I will share and then you can others can add on, right? Because when you talk about the Humboldt Fellowship, you are doing the PhD Humboldt Fellowship, right? It's primarily right. The one criteria they will be clearly looking at is how many papers, how many good publications come out of your thesis, right? So you have to have a good solid thesis, solid PhD work. If you are done a postdoc, right, that's a secondary, right? Even when you're applying for apply at the time of it. So try to work hard on the good thesis, right? That's a primary criteria, right? But they're not deciding based on that. Having said that, right? Then what is the primary criteria? The one of the differentiator again compared to the other fellowships, Humboldt Fellowship is you are going to decide what the area that you are going to work, because you are not working under some other professor's project or so. So you have the rights and you are going to write the research proposal. So the research proposal is the only document that determines, right, to get your quality, that get your Humboldt Fellowship. So in order to write the good research proposal, but it should not be an extension of your PhD work as well. So it has to be a little different than what's your PhD work. There must be a good number of publications come out of your PhD work, and then the good research proposal, solid research proposals we have, and it's for a clear, you will be getting it. You don't need to worry about like X university, Y university, which ranking. They don't really look at it. It's only about your proposal and your solid PhD work.
I think I'd like to add just one little thing here. Let's see, apart from, as Rishi Kumar said, you have to write a very good proposal, but at the same time, you need a mentor there, or the lab in which you are going to work. So you have to find what his question was, that you have to identify a department or a person, and then because that person has to agree to take you also. So though you have to be innovative and propose something different from your PhD work and something new, but at the same time, the mentor should be willing to have you in his lab, because as I said, even though because you're going with your own money, they are willing, they're more lenient with accepting you from a different background. But at the same time, it should somewhat align with the work which is going on in that field. So that way, I think choice of mentor is important because he has to agree to host you.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think like what Professor Sasikumar mentioned, it is, if Humboldt Foundation basically looking at your doctoral thesis. Even you did some postdoc, you have an excellent publication, they will go back to your doctoral thesis. That's where the concentration. So you have to have an excellent thesis, and you should also show the publication like Professor Sasikumar said. That's actually one of the very important criteria to get into that. Because postdoc actually, you go into, it is a collective work. It is not going to show how much is your strength. Whereas the doctoral thesis, which highlights what you can do, that's your own work, that will provide good visibility to those people. So if you are looking at the fellowship, you should concentrate more on your doctoral thesis. I think that's the one.
Thank you so much. If there are no other questions, I'd like to thank all the panelists here for sharing their precious time with us this afternoon and their thoughts and their learnings and their experiences. I think all of you have pivoted using the Humboldt Fellowship and have built a lot of capacity in India. Thank you for coming back and being here and building this capacity and mentoring the next generation. So thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today. I'd like to close the session for now.
Thank you, Dr. Tony. I would request all the dignitaries to take the first row. Now we'll be having a small group discussion. I request Dr. Bharat, my colleague from the Division of Medical Informatics, to provide guidance on this group discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. So good afternoon, everyone. Now we are going to start the group discussion session. For this session, you all will be splitting up into 5 groups. Each group will have Humboldtian as a mentor, and one of a colleague will be recording, taking the notes of the discussion. So list of the participants who will be divided into the groups are up in the slides. So you can find your names, and that will be the group will be assigned to. So if any of the names are not there, then kindly feel free to join any group of your choice. So in the last, we also mentioned the location where the discussion will happen. Team 1 can regroup at the academic block, which is right next to the cafeteria. Team 2 can regroup at the coffee area, which is just behind this auditorium. Team 3 will be in the museum block ground floor, and team 4 will be museum block first floor. Team 5 can regroup on the top of this auditorium, the last row. And the purpose of the group discussion would be to discuss about your research interests with the mentors. You can feel free to discuss your thoughts with them. We have 30 minutes for this group discussion, and we'll probably join back by 4:40. Right? Thank you.
Yeah, we join back at 4:40. We just need a smaller closure.
Please come and join us on the stage. So we are at this juncture where we are concluding this afternoon's excellent workshop. As a participant in this workshop, also as a bit of organizing, I have this opportunity to conclude here. It's really difficult. The first thing and foremost thing is to be awestruck by the stellar personalities who are there with us today. I never imagined to be sitting and discussing research with an astrophysicist or aerodynamics or ma'am who's got a PhD in 70s. Really, for us, these people are role models. We need to really look up, really high up in the sky. So it was an amazing evening, and I think a lot of credit to Father Charles for bringing us onto this kind of a workshop today. Thank you for giving us the platform for today's workshop. We heard them share both their professional and personal experiences, and I guess every line spoken to them really enriched our experience today, and I'm sure all of you will agree with us. Some of the few takeaways which I kind of jotted down while I was attending. I guess the first and foremost is ma'am's statement that we should take pride in our institution and the self-confidence that she gained, and she's returned to India and got into the development of capacity here itself. Amazing experience and amazing inspiration to all young researchers here. Uh, we got the inspiration to build career, exposure to new technologies. Ma'am has gone into institute, Bioinformatics Institute as well. Sir has Dr. Kumar has highlighted about importance for looking out for opportunities, and that there are challenges, but they can be overcome in big and small ways. Um, for us, Shashi Kumar, Dr. Shiva Kumar actually was inspirational in letting us know that his lab career in fact came back and started a lab, and he had his fellows who looked up to him and got inspired to look at alternative and associated fields. So that again for us, this is an example of multidisciplinary collaboration and I guess inspiration for all of us. And the important thing which everybody shared is that there are opportunities for collaboration throughout our careers, and that an observership is just an email away. I guess all of us are really inspired with that. That our publications are very important. Our basic work talks for us, and finding a good mentor would be very instrumental in obtaining this fellowship. The group discussion which we had, all of us got an opportunity with one of the faculty, I think was a great idea. It was a very good experience, and thank you, Professor Siraj Hassan, for highlighting the fact that we need to never undermine or underestimate our own capacities. He really helped us in building our confidence. Wherever we are in our careers, we can still look at going forward. So with those not so brief concluding remarks, I would like to now go on to proposing as a part of vote of thanks, would like to request Father Charles to hand over some memento. So from our side, memento, Father Charles, please hand over to Professor Manju Bansal. I request Father Charles to hand over to Professor Shashi Kumar. Thank you, Father. I request Dr. Tony Raj, Dean of our Research Institute, to kindly hand over the memento to Professor Siraj Hassan. Kindly hand over our token of gratitude to Professor Shiva Kumar. With that, we come to an end to this a very nice workshop, and I think we'll have one more round of big applause for all participants and faculty. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.